I never thought I'd be the guy writing a story like this, but here I am. My name's Jason, and I was supposed to marry Lisa about a month ago. We'd been together for 4 years, and I honestly thought we had a solid future. She always seemed a bit bitchy, yeah, but I liked that about her. She was fiery, strong-willed, knew what she wanted. Or so I thought. Things started feeling off about 2 months before the wedding. She got really secretive with her phone, texting all the time, even when I was right next to her. I'd catch her sneaking her phone away, hiding her screen if I got close, and she'd always say she was just chatting with her friends or some coworker. She's a sales manager at that marketing firm downtown, and she's always been close to her boss, Mark. She'd brag about him a lot, how smart he was, how much she admired his drive. But I never thought much of it. I trusted her. Then came the late nights. She'd say she was working late or she had to attend meetings after hours. I didn't think much about it at first. Maybe it was just her career ambitions. But then I started noticing her phone was always on silent, and she'd hide her messages when I was around. She'd brush me off when I asked about her day, and she'd get oddly defensive if I questioned her about her texts. I still remember the night I saw her phone light up with a message from Mark, something about a dinner meeting. She quickly put her phone face down and said she was just making plans with her sister. Not suspicious, right? But I knew better. One evening I went to the bathroom, and as I passed her phone on the kitchen counter, I caught a glimpse of her message inbox. There were dozens of texts back and forth with Mark, some recent, some from weeks ago. Nothing explicit at first glance, but enough to make my stomach churn. I looked closer. They were talking about work, about meetings, about how they had to keep this secret, and how much they hated hiding it from me. My heart started pounding. I felt like I'd been hit in the gut. I kept looking, and I saw a message that made everything sink in. Can't wait to see you tonight. Maybe I'll finally get a proper taste of you. I froze. My mind was racing. I thought about all those times she told me she loved me, that she was planning our wedding, that she wanted a future with me. Meanwhile, she was sneaking around behind my back with her boss. I couldn't believe it. My wife, the woman I trusted enough to marry, was cheating on me with someone who's 10 years older, who she supposedly just admired professionally. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry all at once. I wanted to confront her immediately, but I knew I had to be smart. I needed proof, clear evidence before I said a word, so I started digging. I went through her emails, her phone backups. I found more messages, more proof of their affair, the kind that was more than just flirtation. They'd been secretly seeing each other for months. Months I thought she was just busy with wedding planning. How could she lie so flawlessly? How could she betray me like this, right before we were supposed to start our life together? It was a punch to the gut, and all I could do was sit there trying to process it. And that's when I decided I wouldn't let her get away with it. I'd find a way to get her to face the truth. I knew I had to. I didn't want to be the fool who got played. I was angry, yes, devastated, hell yes. But I also knew I had to handle this carefully. I needed to see just how deep this went and what her next move was going to be. I didn't want to jump to conclusions and ruin everything if it was just innocent work chatter. But deep down, I knew it was. I could feel it in my bones. My marriage, the one I'd fought so hard for, was already broken. All that was left was figuring out what I'd do about it. After I collected enough evidence, I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I waited until she came home from work that evening. I remember how her heels clicked on the floor, that familiar, confident stride of hers. She smiled at me like everything was normal, like she hadn't just been lying for months. I just looked at her, feeling a mix of rage and heartbreak simmering inside me. "Lisa," I said, my voice trembling but steady, "we need to talk." Her smile faltered a little and she looked at me, trying to act innocent. "What's going on, Jason? Did I forget something?" she said, batting her eyelashes like she always did when she was trying to get her way. But I didn't buy it, not anymore. I pulled out my phone and showed her the messages. Her face instantly drained of color. She looked like she was caught in a trap, and honestly, I'd never seen her look so vulnerable. I let her read the texts, the ones she so desperately tried to hide. I saw her eyes flicker with panic, then frustration. She opened her mouth to lie, but I cut her off. "You've been screwing your boss for months, haven't you?" I said, my voice low and cold. "That's why you've been so secretive, so distant. I thought I was planning a future with you, but you've been planning something else entirely." Her eyes darted away and she tried to brush it off to dismiss it. "Honestly, Jason, you're overreacting. It was just sex. It's not a big deal." That pissed me off even more. "Just sex. Do you hear yourself? This isn't some casual fling. You've been lying, sneaking around, betraying me right before our wedding. How could you do that? How could you lie to my face for months, act like everything was perfect?" She was good at spinning stories, though. She started crying, saying she was overwhelmed, that she didn't mean for it to happen, that Mark was just a distraction, that it was just sex, like it was some harmless mistake. She kept saying I was overreacting, that I didn't understand her, that she was confused and maybe she needed space. I looked at her, seeing the bitchy streak she tried so hard to hide behind her tears. Honestly, I wanted to believe her, I really did. But I couldn't. I felt so betrayed, so humiliated. All those years, all those plans just shattered in a few texts. I felt like I was living in some bad movie, except it was real life. I started to feel this deep sadness, this crushing disappointment. How could she do this? How could she lie so effortlessly? And then the anger came back. The kind that takes over your whole body. I couldn't just walk away. No, I had to do something. I couldn't just let her brush it off. I told her I needed some time to think, that I wasn't sure if I could ever forgive her. She begged, said she loved me, said she'd make it right. But I knew she was lying. I saw right through her. As she left the room, crying and screaming about how unfair everything was, I sat there stunned. The house suddenly felt like a prison. For a moment I thought about just walking out, leaving her behind, forgetting everything. But I knew I had to be smarter. I had to be strategic. I wanted to see what she'd do next. I decided I'd confront her again, but this time I'd be ready. I started planning my next move. I didn't want to get caught off guard again. I wanted her to see I wasn't stupid, that I knew everything. That's when I realized this wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was about whether I was willing to stay and be a fool, or fight back and get the revenge I knew I deserved. I spent the night awake thinking about where this was headed. I knew I wasn't going to let her ruin me without a fight. I was hurt, yes, but I was also angry, and if she thought she could lie her way out of this, she had another thing coming. I wasn't the kind of guy who just rolled over and accepted betrayal. No, I was going to make her regret it. I was going to teach her that her lies had consequences, that her actions weren't going to go unpunished. And that's where I am now, planning how to turn this around, how to make her pay for what she did, and figuring out how I'll rebuild my life after this. I don't know how it'll end, but I know I won't be the same anymore. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My mind was racing, replaying everything from the night before, her tears, her lies, the texts. I kept thinking about how she'd convinced herself she could get away with it, that she could keep this secret forever. Honestly, I was furious, not just at her but at myself too, how I let it get this far without noticing, how I trusted her so blindly. I knew I had to act carefully. I couldn't just blow up everything without a plan. So I started by gathering more evidence. I went through her email history, her social media accounts, even her cloud backups. I wanted to make sure I had every shred of proof I could get before making any move. I needed something concrete, something I could show her that she couldn't deny. While digging through her emails, I found another email chain, this one even messier. It was from a few weeks ago, where she was discussing their meetings, the times she'd sneak out of the house, how she'd cover for herself. There were even plans to meet after work, to go to hotels. I felt sick looking at it all. I knew then that I couldn't just confront her with a few texts. I needed to show her I knew everything, that she'd been caught red-handed. I also found out that she'd been lying about her meetings with her boss. She told me she was working late or going to networking events, but in reality, she was sneaking off with Mark. I even found receipts from hotels she booked under fake names, the credit card charges that confirmed she'd been seeing him in secret. This was no longer just an affair. It was a full-blown betrayal, a carefully planned secret life. The more I uncovered, the more my anger grew. I felt like a fool, like I'd been played for months, and all the while she'd been planning her escape route with her boss. I couldn't believe how easily she'd lied to my face, how she'd manipulated everyone around her. It was surreal. I couldn't sleep, kept pacing around the house trying to figure out what to do next. I knew I had to confront her again, but this time I'd be ready. That afternoon, I decided I'd go to her workplace just to see if she was telling the truth about her schedule. I didn't want to make a scene, but I needed to know if she was still sneaking around. I parked outside her office building and watched for a while. Sure enough, I saw her walk in with Mark. They looked cozy, laughing, touching at times. That was the moment I knew I had to act fast. I did. Want her to think I was just going to walk away. I needed to catch her off guard to make her see I was serious. So I planned to show up at her office that evening, armed with all the evidence I had gathered. I wanted her to realize that I wasn't the fool anymore, that I knew everything, and I was ready to expose her in front of everyone if I had to. When she finally got home that night, I was already waiting in the living room. She walked in, surprised to see me sitting there, my face cold and hard. She tried to play innocent, asking what I was doing. I just looked at her and pulled out the phone with all the messages, emails, receipts, everything I'd found. Her face went pale, her eyes darted around, searching for a way out. "Lisa," I said, voice low but steady, "you lied to me for months. You told me you loved me, that we had a future. Meanwhile, you were screwing your boss, planning to leave me behind. I have everything documented. How could you lie so easily? How could you betray me like this right before our wedding?" Her mouth opened, but no words came out at first. Then she started spinning her usual bullshit, saying it was just sex, that it didn't mean anything, that Mark was just a distraction. She looked so confident when she was lying, so bitchy and unrepentant. It was infuriating. I told her she wasn't fooling me anymore, that I knew about everything and I was done. I told her that I didn't want her to come crawling back, that she'd lost my trust forever. She kept crying, begging me to forgive her, saying she was confused, that she was going to change. But I didn't believe her. Not anymore. That night I made my decision. I told her that she could pack her things, that I didn't want her in my house anymore, that I was done with her lies. Watching her try to manipulate me, try to make me feel guilty, just made me more certain that I had to cut her out of my life for good. In the days that followed, I felt numb. I was angry, hurt, but also relieved. I finally saw her for who she really was, someone I couldn't trust, someone who'd played me for months. I realized I'd been a fool, but at least now I was free. I learned that not everyone who looks good on the outside is worth trusting, and sometimes you have to lose everything to see the truth. And honestly, I don't regret it. I'm going to rebuild my life, and I'll never let that kind of betrayal happen again. After she left, I just sat there, staring at the empty doorway where she'd been moments before. My mind was a whirlwind, anger, sadness, betrayal, all swirling together. I kept replaying everything she said, every lie she told, and I felt like I was suffocating. I kept wondering how I missed all of the signs, how someone I trusted so completely could tear me apart like that. I knew I had made the right decision, but it still hurt like hell. I never thought I'd be the kind of guy to go through a breakup like this, especially under such brutal circumstances. But what choice did I have? I couldn't stay with someone who'd lied to me for so long, who'd taken my love and trust and thrown it back in my face. No, I had to get out. Before I became even more of a fool. That night I started reaching out to some friends, people I knew wouldn't judge me, who could lend a sympathetic ear. I told them what had happened, and surprisingly, I found some relief in finally talking about it out loud. But underneath all that was a deep ache, this sense that my life had been turned upside down in a matter of days. I'd gone from planning my wedding to planning how to pick up the pieces of a shattered relationship. The following days were a blur. I threw myself into work, trying to distract myself from the chaos inside. But every little thing reminded me of her, her smell, her laugh, the way she'd look at Mark with that condescending smile. I started noticing things I'd overlooked before, like her constant defensiveness, her dismissiveness when I'd ask about her day. I realized I'd been blind for too long, blind to the signs she was hiding something from me. I also started to reflect on what I truly wanted. Was I going to fight for this, or was it better to walk away? Deep down, I knew trusting her again was impossible. She'd lied so much, it was like trying to rebuild a house made of sand. The more I thought about her, the more I realized I deserved someone who wouldn't look at me with contempt, who wouldn't hide their phone or lie about their whereabouts. One day, I finally reached the point where I knew I had to cut ties completely. I began packing her things, not out of anger but out of clarity. I wanted her gone from my life, from my house, from my mind. Every item I boxed up felt like a small victory. I was reclaiming what was mine, piece by piece. It was a long, emotional process, but I knew it was necessary. While she was gone, I started taking stock of what I'd lost and what I'd gained. I'd lost the woman I thought I knew, but I'd gained clarity about who I was, someone who wouldn't accept betrayal and who deserved better. I realized how much her betrayal had damaged my trust, but also how resilient I could be. I didn't want to be the guy who wallowed in misery forever, but I also knew I had to give myself time to heal. During those lonely days, I also discovered some surprising things. Turns out I wasn't alone. Friends reached out, offering support and understanding. Some told me they'd suspected her behavior for a while, but nobody wanted to say it aloud. I started to see that I wasn't the only one who saw her true nature. She'd been fooling everyone, not just me. That was a small comfort in a way. I also realized I'd have to face the aftermath of this upheaval. There would be questions from family, friends, maybe even colleagues. The shame of being cheated on, of being played for a fool, those feelings weren't easy to get past. But I knew I had to put one foot in front of the other. I had to rebuild my life brick by brick. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to let her define me. I was going to focus on myself, on my future. Yeah, I was hurt, and yeah, I felt like a damn idiot. But I also understood that betrayal doesn't have to break you if you learn from it. And I learned that no matter how much you love someone, sometimes they're just not worth the pain they cause. I've started seeing a therapist, talking through everything. It helps to get my feelings out, to understand that it's okay to be angry but not let that anger consume me. I'm slowly moving forward, even if the wounds are still fresh. I know I'll get through this, stronger than before. I just wish I hadn't had to go through this to realize it. It's been a few weeks since she left, and honestly, I'm still trying to piece myself back together. Some days are better than others. I get up, go to work, do the stuff I need to do, but there's this constant ache in my chest, like a part of me is missing. I keep replaying everything she said, every lie, every sneaky message, and I wonder how I let someone so manipulative get close enough to do this. It's like I was blind, really blind, to who she was hiding behind that bitchy smile. I started going out more, trying to clear my head. I met up with a couple of friends, and for once, I let myself just be honest about everything. They told me I shouldn't blame myself, that I was a good guy, and she was the one who screwed up. That helped a little. Still, I catch myself sometimes thinking about what I could have done differently, what I missed. But deep down, I know this isn't my fault. She chose this. She chose to betray me for a guy 10 years older, someone she clearly idolized or found some kind of excitement with. One thing I didn't expect was how much I'd start to see her true colors, little things I missed before. She was always bitchy when things didn't go her way, quick to dismiss others, and had this arrogant attitude that I now realize was hiding a lot of insecurity. All her talk about how she was so career-driven, how she deserved better, it was all bullshit. She's just selfish. She used me as a backup, a safety net, while she chased some fantasy with Mark. I also found out she'd been lying about her finances. I thought she was saving for our future, but it turns out she's been draining her own savings to pay for her secret meetings. I saw the bank statements, the hotel bills. She'd been sneaking money out of her account, probably to keep Mark happy or to fund her affair. That was the final nail in the coffin. How much she'd been hiding, how she'd been planning to just cut me loose when she got what she wanted. Honestly, part of me feels like I dodged a bullet. I keep telling myself that. I was about to marry someone who was fundamentally dishonest, someone who didn't respect me enough to be truthful. And I know now that I deserve someone who actually values honesty and loyalty. Still, it stings every time I see her face in my mind, or I remember that she'd lied to me for so long. I keep asking myself how I didn't see it sooner, how I was so blind that I didn't realize she was cheating behind my back right from the start. One of the hardest parts was the emotional roller coaster. One day, I'd feel angry, thinking about how she betrayed me, how she was so bitchy and manipulative. The next, I'd feel a deep sadness like I'd lost someone I loved. It's confusing and honestly exhausting. I keep telling myself I need to move on, to cut her out completely, but some nights are worse than others. The loneliness hits hard, especially when I think about what could have been. I've started focusing on myself more. I joined a gym, started reading more, and even signed up for some new hobbies. I realized that I'd let her consume too much of my thoughts, my energy. Now I'm trying to rebuild my life without her in it. I know I'll never forget what she did, but I also know I can't let it define me. I deserve better. Every day I remind myself that I'm better off without her, that I don't need someone who lies and manipulates, that I'm a good guy, and this experience has made me stronger, more cautious maybe, but stronger. I've learned to trust my instincts more, to listen when something feels off, and to never ignore that little voice telling me to be careful. And honestly, I think I'm starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's not easy, and I know there will still be bad days, but I genuinely believe I'll come out of this stronger. The pain will fade, and someday I'll find someone who truly respects me, someone who doesn't take me for granted or lie behind my back. Until then, I've just got to keep moving forward one step at a time. Looking back now, I realize this whole experience has changed me in ways I never expected. I thought I knew who I was, but betrayal like this strips everything down to the core. It's humbling, painful, but also strangely eye-opening. It's made me see the red flags I ignored before, the subtle signs I brushed aside because I wanted to believe in her, in us. One thing I've learned is that trust isn't something you can take for granted. It's fragile, and once broken, it's damn near impossible to repair. I also learned that some people will lie with ease, manipulate your feelings, and do whatever it takes to chase their own selfish desires. That realization hurts, but it's a lesson I won't forget. I don't want to waste my energy trusting someone who isn't worthy of it. Most importantly, I've come to understand that I'm stronger than I thought. I survived this betrayal, and I'm still standing. The pain has lessened, replaced by a cautious hope that I'll find happiness again, without the lies, without the betrayal. I don't regret what happened, even if I wish it hadn't happened at all. It's a brutal wake-up call, but one that pushed me to stand up for myself, to finally see my own worth. Now I focus on rebuilding my life piece by piece. I've learned to set boundaries, to trust my instincts, and to value honesty above all else. I've cut out the toxic people, the ones who enabled her or turned a blind eye. I've also learned to forgive myself for trusting too easily, for not seeing the signs sooner, for wanting to believe so badly in a future that was never real. This experience has also made me appreciate the people who genuinely care. My friends, my family, they've been a lifeline during this mess. They reminded me that I'm not alone, that I deserve respect, love, and honesty. That's a lesson I'll carry with me. No matter how dark things get, there's always support, always a way out if you're willing to face the truth. I don't know what the future holds or if I'll ever fully trust again, but I do know I won't let this define me. I'll take the scars, learn from them, and move forward stronger. Because at the end of the day, I have to believe that good things are still out there, things worth fighting for, worth trusting again. So here's what I want to say to anyone reading this who might be going through something similar. Don't ignore the warning signs. Trust your gut. And never let someone's lies destroy your sense of worth. You're better than being played for a fool. You're stronger than the pain. And no matter how much it hurts right now, time does heal. The betrayal will fade, but your dignity and self-respect will remain. Keep fighting for yourself, because that's the only thing that truly matters.